Hey guys, and happy Wednesday. So today I am going to be telling you guys a story on how I got conned by Chef, and I also feel like his niece played a big part in this, and her name is Diana Crane. And I'm going to tell you guys about my relationship with Chef up until the point where the Cadillac came into play, the breakup and everything else. I'm going to put a disclaimer out here first of all that there's two sides to every story, and they can tell their story how they want to. I'm telling my story, how I feel things happened in this relationship and how things happened with the car. So with that being said, I'm going to start off by talking to you guys about how I met Chef. I met Chef on a dating website called Zoosk. And when Chef first started blowing me up on Zoosk, he left me his phone number and all that stuff. I was not interested in him. I could only see bits and pieces of his message because I was a month-to-month person. I would pay as I go. And if I didn't feel like things were going well on the site, I just wasn't going to pay. And it seemed like it was pretty slow, so I didn't pay that month. So I was curious as to why he left me his number and what else he was trying to say in this message, because it seemed like a very long message. So I ended up paying the $29.95 just so I can unlock this message. And so I read the message. He was telling me about himself, where he was from, who he was, and he was telling me that he was legit and that he was just trying to meet someone because I believe he was saying that with busy work schedules and stuff like that, you know, it's hard to meet people. So he is on this dating website, even though people have been telling him that he doesn't need to be on this website because of who he is. And I still just I wasn't interested because Chef just wasn't my type at all. I mean, when I say at all, he wasn't my type at all. His profile picture showed this heavy-set black man that looked like he weighed close to 400 pounds. And I just wasn't interested. I've never been attracted to big guys. Not to say that there's anything wrong with them. I just never been attracted to big guys. And not to mention, he was 49 at the time. I was in my 30s. And I just, me personally, I like light brights, almost white. And I like guys that are younger than me. That is just my preference. But I will try different things, and I have tried different things. I ended up calling Chef while I was on vacation, and we hit it off really well. And he was encouraging me to go to his different websites and check him out and all the different accomplishments and stuff that he's done in his life, and that he's the creator of the 911 fire foam. And so I did. I went and I checked out all these sites, and they seem to be legit. And I was like, oh, he really is who he say he is. Not that impressed me, but I was impressed of the fact that, okay, he's telling the truth about himself. Because, you know, on these dating sites, most people don't tell the truth about themselves. And especially if you meet them, if you've ever been on a dating site, if you meet them, pretty much half the time when you meet the person, it's like, oh my God, you pretty much lied about your whole entire profile. But anywho, I ended up going to see Chef. I think there's not that much light here. Let me see if I can get some more light going here. I don't know if that's going to help my situation or not. But I don't know if that helped me or not. But anywho, I ended up meeting Chef on a Sunday right before I got ready to go back to work. And I was comfortable going to see him because I might have got confused when we were talking. I thought he said that his daughter had stayed with him. So I was comfortable enough to go there because someone else was there. So I drove all the way to Youngstown on a Sunday in the afternoon. It was about maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I went down there to go see him. And I stayed for approximately about 2 hours, and we just kind of like talked. And he gave me one of his cookbooks and he signed it and everything. And then I ended up going home. I was kind of thrown off though when I first met Chef because I didn't realize how handicapped he was. When I met him, he was out. When I pulled up to his driveway, he was already outside doing something with his car. And when he stood up, I noticed his arm looked like it was a little limp, and he walked with a limp. And he seemed like he, not so much as having a hard time, but he was struggling a little bit. And I was just like, oh, okay. And after the visit, I wanted to see him again. I was like, he was pretty cool. I'd see him again. And I ended up having a meeting that next week in Youngstown. And so I think we texted each other, and I told him I was in the Youngstown area, and if he wanted me to stop by and see him before I went home, that I could. And he said, yeah, but he gave me a different address this time. And this time he gave me an address to an apartment that he lived in somewhere else. And so I said, oh, okay. So I'm trying to find this apartment, and as I'm getting close, I feel like I'm getting in the ghetto. And I'm like, where do you have me? I said, because I feel like I'm in the ghetto. And he said he's in these apartments. And he was just like kind of like trying to explain it or whatever. So I'm like, okay. So when I get there, he's sitting in this motorized wheelchair rolling out. And I'm like, okay. And so Diana, she happened to be there too, because she was dropping off his garage remote to the house. And so I had grabbed it from her, and then we went in the house, and he just explained to me then that he was more comfortable being down at the apartment because he could get around. His wheelchair was down there if he needed to. Everything was just like one level, versus at the house there's steps and everything else, and it just makes it hard for him to get around at the house. And I'm like, oh, okay, understandable. So I was down there, and we chit-chatted for a while, and then I ended up going home. And from there, just a relationship kind of blossomed. And Chef's and I's relationship lasted 9 months before I broke it off completely. So like I said, I met Chef in August. And before I move ahead, Diana Crane is supposed to be his niece. Okay? And she lives with him in his house in Youngstown on Colonial. And from day one, I kind of felt like something just wasn't right. And I just always felt like she was not his niece. Like she was of no relation, like it was something else, but I did not feel like she was family related at all. And I'll get back to that. Okay, so I got a whole list here of things that I wanted to tell you guys about. Some things, you know, that Chef has told me along this journey with him. And one of the things I noticed about Chef right away when I first met him is he likes to talk a lot, and he likes to put a stamp on all of his stuff. And one of the things that he told me was that house that he lives in on Colonial in Youngstown, he was like, I paid $450,000 cash for this house. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, my thing is, I really, honestly, I don't care. And I'm just going to give out some facts real quick. The house that he lives in on Colonial is a foreclosed home. I believe it was foreclosed 2 times. The first time it was foreclosed for $59,000. The next time it was like $76,000 or $79,000. The house was sold to him for $159,000. Now, this is public information. Anybody can look this stuff up. And this stuff was looked up, and why he felt the need that he had to lie about how much he paid for his house is unknown to me. I don't understand. Why did you feel like you needed to lie about how much you paid for your house? I mean, it's your home. It's where you live. I could care less. I could care less what you know about how much I paid for my home. It's my home. This is where I live. Who cares? The next thing is, he said that he has a restaurant in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the Hard Rock Cafe called Mr. Luckey's. Now, there is a restaurant in Las Vegas in the casino, in the Hard Rock Cafe called Mr. Lucky's. Now, my mom, she was curious because I would tell my mom all kinds of stories about chefs. So my mom, she was curious. So her and her best friend looked up this restaurant, and here come find out he doesn't even own the restaurant. Now, I don't know if he lost the restaurant when he had the stroke, but that is not his restaurant at all. And that's where the Cadillac comes into play. But I just want to tell you guys a little bit more about some of the things that he told me, and then I'm gonna jump to the whole thing with the Cadillac. Okay, he said that he's the creator of the 911 fire foam, and that this made him a billionaire. Now, when I first met Chef, there was a website up that I could go to and look up information on him. To this day, I cannot find that website that was put up at all. But one of my friends who helped me figure out some things about him told me that it was a fake web page and that you can create web pages. And basically what he did was had these web pages created. I looked them up, but then later on these web pages, they disappeared. Half the web pages that I went to, I can no longer find on him, period, at all. Let's see what else. Now, I told you guys that I had met Chef on Zoosk. He's still on Zoosk. And he says the reason why he's on Zoosk is because he sells his cookbooks on Zoosk. It's a dating site. Who's selling cookbooks on Zoosk? But okay. The one thing that I found that was really, really strange about the whole thing with him being on Zoosk is that Diana Crane has access to his Zoosk account. And he had told me in a conversation that if she doesn't like the women that are going after him, then she pretty much sends them on their way. And I said, so did she pick me for you? And he said, no, I picked you myself. And I'm like, oh, okay. I just found that also a little weird because she has access to everything. His passcodes on his phone, his passcodes to his gun safe. She just knows a little bit too much to be a niece. And that's the one thing that has always like bothered me about her and always kept me with one eye open with her. He always seemed like he was that man that everybody respected. Like everybody knew him. He was just this good man, father of the year, smart man, IQ of 190. Everybody loves him. Everybody respects him. He always helped people. But every time I seen Chef, it just seemed like he was around low budget people that I just couldn't understand. Why are you around people that, I mean, is low budget? I mean, when I say low budget, like low budget project people like you're always entertaining these type of people. I never see you around anybody that's about something, but you're always around people that don't have nothing going for them and don't look like they want to have anything going for them. But these were always the people that he was entertaining, always wanting these people to try to help him out to do different things around his house or his apartment or whatnot. And the one thing I want to say about Chef is I noticed that he has nothing in his name. Nothing. That house that he lives in on Colonial, it's in two different people's names, and I'm not going to mention them, even though it's for public information. You can look it up and see whose names it's under. It's not under his name, and then the apartment, it's in Diana's name, and you got to be low budget to get an apartment over there because it's for low income people. So the apartment is in her name and the house is in somebody else's name, and then the Nissan little so-called truck that they were driving, that was also in someone else's name. So I'm working my way up to the car. At this point, Chef and I are in a relationship and it's 2 months in. It's now October. And Chef started asking me if I could get him a car back in September, because when we got the car, it was in October, and it was early October. And he was saying that he was going to pay the car off in December when he got his check from his restaurant, Mr. Lucky's in Las Vegas. And so he was looking for a car. And I would have never thought that he would have wanted to get a car that was as high priced as the car that he did end up getting, which was the Cadillac. That was a $50,000 car. I would have never thought that he would have wanted to get a car that expensive. But I'm thinking, okay, it's his car. He can get what he wants to get. I'm just going to be the person to get it for him. Now, when I did this, I felt like it was the wrong thing to do. Even when he asked me to do it and they had to run my credit score and everything else, I really just felt like something just isn't right about this. But I was trying to be a good girlfriend at the time and just help him out. And so when it was time to go and pick up this car, like I said, I'm still feeling like this is not the right thing to do, but I ended up doing it anyways. Now, this is a $50,000 car. He gets it right off the showroom floor. Now, mind you, he said that he was going to pay the car off in December. December came and went. January came and went. February came and went. And I finally said something to Chef, and I'm like, so when are you going to pay this car off? You said when you got your money from your restaurant that you were going to pay it off. Now, whenever I approach Chef about something, he always walking all around it like he can't answer the question. He trying to talk about everything else, but he can't talk about what we talking about right now. And that is something that I hate in him, in anyone. If I'm asking you a question, answer it. Don't walk all around the question. And so he wasn't answering the question. So then his niece, Diane Crane, grabs his cell phone, and I'm going to put her text message up about that conversation that we had about him paying off the car and about how he was supposed to pay the car off when he got his money. Well, she sends me a text message saying that he had doctor bills, and so they ended up taking him, which you guys can read the text message. I'll try to leave it up there long enough for you to see it. If not, you can just pause the video and read the text message. That she sent me. And so I'm thinking like, okay, so he's not getting this check. So who's paying for this car? So nobody offered to pay for the car or nothing. Just left it all on me. And so now I'm ticked because the one thing that I feared that was going to happen just happened. And I don't want to mess up my good credit because I have awesome credit. And I don't want to mess up my good credit. So I continue to pay for this car, and I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do. In the meantime, Chef and I's relationship is kind of deteriorating. I'm realizing that he's just not somebody that I want to be with, but he's stringing me along, and he keeps telling me all these stories about he's getting his money and this, that, and the third. But every time it's time for him to get this money, something ends up happening to where it's something that has to do with him being cognitive. He has to pass the cognitive test. Then after he passes the cognitive test, then it has to do with something wasn't signed off properly with the paperwork, and then now it has to go back through the government system and all this, that, and the third. So there's one story after another about this money that he's supposed to be getting. Now this $1 billion some dollars that he's supposed to be getting. And I'm like, okay, so I'm the dummy that's still paying for this car and listening to his stories. Okay, so I feel like Chef is one of those type of people where he has a huge imagination, and I think sometimes that imagination, it gets the best of him. He told me that he was an oncologist and that he practiced this for 8 years in California, and Miss Victoria Stringer, which is supposed to be an RN, worked with him. He told me that he had stopped being an oncologist because he was tired of watching people die. So my one friend, who I'm gonna call Inspector Gadget, she's a doctor, and so she said, well, where did he practice at? I let her know where he practiced at. She looked it up. She said there is no doctor by the name of Herman Luckey that practiced oncology in Las Vegas, Nevada, or in California. Nor is there an RN by the name of Victoria Stringer. Never heard of them. And it's not on the registry anywhere. So I'm like, okay. Chef also told me that he was on the Food Network for 10 years. And I tried looking him up and I tried finding him because I wanted to see, out of curiosity, what he was like before he had the stroke. But I never could find anything about him. Looking up his name, Food Network, I tried to go back as far as I could with the Food Network, and I never ran across anything with Chef. And so, one other thing, just backing up, he also told me that when he moved into his house on Colonial after he had had the stroke, that Gail King, which is kind of like a public relations manager for him, I'm going to say, is over his money, and she's basically the one who disperses out his money every month to him. But Gail King, which is Oprah Winfrey's best friend, okay, he said that both of them came to Youngstown to stay with him for an entire week when he had first had his stroke in that house. And I'm thinking, now putting two and two together, I was thinking, okay, first of all, the house was purchased in May of 2012. You had your stroke in 2009. How did Gail King and Oprah wind up in that desolate place of Youngstown, and why would they want to stay there for a whole entire week with you? Which didn't make any sense to me. And I just kind of felt like that was kind of strange. He also told me that Gail liked him and that Gail wants to be with him because she knows that he's the king of the Cayman Islands and that she wants to be the queen, and that she was upset that he was with me and that she told him that the relationship would only last 6 months. Well, you were right, dearest friend. It lasted all of 9 months, and it was a struggle to even get there. But you were exactly right. Now, I don't really know if he deals with Gail King like that or not, but he claims that she calls him all the time, and this woman wants to be with him. But my whole thing is, if this woman wants to be with you, then why didn't she buy you a car? Why didn't she take care of you? Why isn't she taking care of you? Can somebody please answer me that question? Also, what else is another one that he told me? Because he did say some things about when Gail and Oprah came to visit him, but I will not disclose of what he said because I personally feel like it was messy what he said, and I am not going to be the one to spread some gossip like that. Also, another thing, Chef claimed that his grandson was killed, and this had to be back in May because I actually went back through my text messages and I found some text messages, and I'm going to post some of the text messages and another picture of some craziness that he sent me. Now, I'm not going to post this baby's picture because I love kids, and I'm just not going to do that anyways. I don't feel like this child has anything to do with it. He's a minor, and I'm not going to put him in the middle of this, but I am going to tell you guys this story. But Chef's daughter was supposed to come and visit him in May, and I believe it was when the baby went on spring break from school. And they were on the Greyhound bus coming to meet him, and I guess there was an ice storm in Texas where it was a drop-off point. And when they got off the bus, I guess another bus slid and couldn't stop, and it jumped the curb and ended up hitting her son, and he was up underneath the bus. And they had to like life flight him to a hospital. And I think he was in a hospital in Texas. I'm not for sure. And as Chef continued to tell me the story, because this was like the first part of the story that I got, that the little boy had ended up getting ran over by this bus, and I was just devastated. Okay, I never met this little boy before in my life, but I felt like he was a family member. I mean, when I say I was bawling my eyes out. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm trying to be there for Chef because he seemed like he was down about this. And I ended up going to Youngstown with him because I had to give him his space at first. But then I ended up going to Youngstown and spending time with him. And he must have got a phone call saying that they were getting ready to pull the plug because he had no brain activity. So Chef had to get to wherever they were in Texas so they all could say goodbye to this baby. And so Chef ends up going. And he's keeping in touch with me while I'm in Akron. And I told him, you know, anything happens, I'm going to be there. Funeral wise, let me know when. I'll catch a flight and I will be there. Because I really wanted to be there for them. So the baby ends up dying. And from what was said, nobody wanted to pay for this baby's funeral. Now, you got all these people in this family that got money. All these people that are like celebrity status. Like he said, his mother's name is Frida Payne. Now, I know me and my family, we don't all get along. But let something happen to one of my family members and we all sitting on money. That's one thing you're not going to have to worry about, and that's a funeral. It ain't going to be no ifs, ands, or buts. It's not even going to be you got to pay me back. We got to lay one of our loved ones to rest, and that's what we going to do. At the end of the day, we going to put all our differences aside. We got a family member that's deceased, and we going to handle our business with that. And it seemed like there was a whole lot of chaos. Did nobody want to do anything? Did nobody want to take care of this funeral? And it just seemed like it was so messy. And even with me trying to get there, Chef was like, well, the baby's on ice and they're still investigating and all of this stuff. And it just seemed so odd to me. It just seemed so odd. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm not saying that it's not true. What I'm saying was it seemed so odd to me that things were going the way they were going. So some time had went by and Chef ends up sending me a picture of the same little boy that I thought had passed away. But it seemed like it was an updated picture, like from the previous picture that he had showed me to the picture that he had sent me, seemed like this picture was like recent, like yesterday. And so I questioned him and I said, who is this? Because it freaked me out. I said, who is this? Is this your grandson? And I mean, I'm asking questions now. I'm like, is this your grandson? And so he got upset because he thought I was trying to say that he was lying about something. So then his so-called niece, Diana, sends me another text message. She sends me a text message trying to cover up the situation and explain what she feel like happened in Chef's confusion. I'm like, okay. He sends me a picture though of some man laid out in the street, and it looks like a man. It does not look like a child. And I said, Chef, this looks like a grown person in this street. What is this? And so that started to draw red flags with me, because I'm like, this don't seem right. I don't know what this bull crap is, but these pictures that you just sent me, they're not adding up, and something is just not right now. So back on this whole thing with Chef saying that he's the king of the Cayman Islands. So my Inspector Gadget friend went and looked it up. She said there is no kings in the Cayman Island. That's another lie. And when I first heard him tell me that he was a king, I thought, really? It didn't seem right to me, but I'm like, okay, I'll go with this with you. So he claims that he's the king of the Cayman Islands, and that was one of the reasons why his brother was trying to kill him, because he knew that if he killed him when he had that stroke, then that would make him the king of the Cayman Islands. So his brother was trying to kill him, to sabotage everything. Now, you guys, y'all seen Coming to America, right? He says that Oprah told him that that Coming to America movie was based off of his life. He's so perfect, y'all. He's so perfect. I'm not trying to say that the stories that he told me are false, but I'm not trying to say that they're all true either. I believe that there is some truth to every lie that anybody tells, and I feel like a lot of things that he told me was fabricated. I'm not saying that he's not a chef. I'm not saying that he has not had accomplishments in his life. I'm not even saying that his so-called niece Diana hasn't had accomplishments in her life either. But I truly feel like she's a part of the scam as well, but she gonna wait it out. I really do feel like he promised her $5 million, and she's trying to stick around as long as she can until she gets this money. And I really do feel like that is exactly what it is. Chef seems too perfect to me. I mean, he really does, but I think I was naive. I listened to these stories and I think I believe some of them. He told me that him and President Obama, him and President Obama are good friends, and they talk on the phone all the time. And I'm thinking, as busy as the president is, why does he have time to talk to you all the dang on time? Who is you? I mean, really, like, who are you? And then he says that Miss Victoria, she bakes cookies for him. And she the only one that can send cookies to the White House and they don't get checked. Now, y'all know dang on well ain't nobody sending nothing to the White House and it ain't getting checked. Quit lying. I mean, seriously, quit lying. I got so many stories, y'all. I have so many. I have so many stories. I mean, that this man, he just seems like he has like the perfect life, but I don't understand why he lives in Youngstown. I really don't. I don't understand why he lives in Youngstown. It's desolate out there. There is nothing out there. I mean, when I say it's desolate, it's desolate. What else here? Also, just recently, and it had to have been around a time where I had lost my job at Aldi's. Just recently, he had told me that his brother and his girlfriend were on their way up here, and she ended up dying on the plane with a brain aneurysm. Now, this is supposed to be Diana Crane's father, and she was supposed to have died of a brain aneurysm. Now, you guys know the way social media is now. They talk about every little thing. Regardless to if it was an accident that happened on the plane or if it was something that was intentional that happened on the plane, you know you would have seen it on the internet somewhere. Tried to look that up, couldn't find it. The same with his grandson getting hit by that Greyhound bus. We Googled and searched that thing out and could not find anything. Now, y'all know if something like that would have truly happened, and Greyhound, which is a $1 million company, y'all know it would have been all over social media. It would have been all over the news, because he said that his grandson wasn't the only one that got hit, but he was the only one that died. Now, regardless of the fact, I believe if they were struggling to bury that little boy, that Greyhound would have footed that bill, just because it was an accident that happened on their turf with one of their buses. Seeing as how this is a lawsuit, I really do feel like they would have stepped up to the plate to help this family bury this baby, that they just wouldn't have left them hanging like that to try to figure out how they were going to bury him, because this is like an unexpected accident that just freakishly happened. You know what I'm saying? So that was the thing that just kind of like drew some red flags with me. I just didn't understand. When me and Chef's relationship took a turn for the worse, it was basically in April, I really want to say, is when it really did start for me, around my birthday. Because the only thing I had asked Chef for my birthday was a cake. That's it. I asked him if he could just make me a cake for my birthday. You supposed to be the chef? Let me get a cake. So he didn't want to make me a cake for my birthday. He said, I'm not going to make you a cake for your birthday. He said, I have something for you. He said, but it's at the jewelry store and I have to pick it up. And I'm like, okay, never seen it. One other thing that I wanted to do on my birthday was I wanted to go to Zanzibar. And I wanted Chef to meet my parents for the first time, because he had never met my parents, because I was always going to Youngstown. He had never came to Akron. I was always going to commute to go see him, in which I felt like I should go to him because he couldn't see that well, and I didn't want him to take a chance driving 45 minutes trying to drive to come see me, so I will always just go and see him. And so I went to Youngstown to get Chef so we could go to Zanzibar. And this was the first attempt to go to Zanzibar. Chef left his medication at home, but I could tell when he got here that he was very uncomfortable and that he just didn't seem like he wanted to be here. And so his excuse was he needed his blood pressure medication and he had to have it. And he was like, I'm sorry. He was like, but when you take medication and you on a time frame, you got to take it. And I'm thinking like, okay, whatever. So I took him home and I dropped him off, because now I'm just ticked off. I'm like, you ruined my birthday and I just want to go home. So I had my best friend booked the appointment for me the following Saturday. I said, I'm not celebrating my birthday. I'm not opening up no birthday presents. I'm just going to wait until the next Saturday and go ahead and celebrate my birthday then. So we attempted this again. Chef seemed like he was uncomfortable. And I'm thinking like, okay, you've already met my mom, so you should be cool now. But he just seemed like he was uncomfortable, like he just was not in his element. He needed to be in his surroundings and he just wasn't comfortable. But we made it through the day nonetheless. Now, he never got me a birthday present. He never offered to pay for dinner. I paid for dinner. I paid for him, myself, and of course my mother, because I'm not about to sit up here and pay for some man to eat and my mother pay for herself. So I just picked up the tab and I paid for everybody. My mother was ticked off mad. And she was thinking like, what kind of man is that? He can't even pay for your dinner for your birthday. She was like, what kind of man is that? So she's mad. She's already mad because of the car, which I'm just getting ready to get into with you guys. So she's already mad about that. She's now mad because you couldn't even pick up a funky it was less than $100 with all of us. I think it was like maybe 80 something dollars, but she was thinking like you couldn't even pick up the tab. Okay, so then in May, Chef ends up going to a rehab to detox because he had been on a prescription medication for so long that he was addicted to it, and they wanted to wean him off of it. So he had to go to some rehab for like 4 days, which he couldn't have no communication with anyone. And that would have been the first time that I hadn't talked to Chef. Chef and I would normally talk like every single day or text, some type of form we would talk. So not talking to him for 4 days, only thing I could do was call up to the hospital just to see how he was doing and check on him. So that was basically what I did. Chef ends up getting out of the hospital that Monday. I called up there Monday morning and they told me that they had discharged him Monday. I didn't hear anything from Chef until Tuesday. And when I did finally hear from him, he sent me a text saying, "I'm out." And I'm like, okay. So when I got home from work, I called him and I'm like, well, how you doing? And I said, I called Monday and they told me that you were out. I said, why are you just now getting in touch with me? And he said, I called you Monday and I tried to call you Monday, woo, woo, woo. And I'm thinking like, Chef, no, you didn't. But anyways, nonetheless, how are you doing? I haven't talked to you in 4 days. I missed you. How are you doing? He's going and talking about everything else under the sun that don't got nothing to do with nothing. He's talking about Diane about how she's sick and how they got to get some help for her because she's sick. And I'm like, well, okay, Chef, I understand that, but in the meantime, how are you? I haven't heard from you in like 4 days, and I'm just trying to talk to him, and he's just rambling on and on and on. And it was at that point I knew this is not gonna work between me and you. I'm like, because first of all, I found out what his real age was. Chef is like 8 years younger than my parents. He's set in his ways. He doesn't really like to do anything. Just sit around the house and tell stories, talk about Illuminati, talk about orbs, and what else does he like to talk about? Oh my goodness, if I think of it, I'll come back to it. But basically, him and I, we don't mesh. And I tried my hardest. I really, honestly, I did in that relationship. I tried my hardest to make it work. And I was even going to settle to basically accommodating his lifestyle and giving up basically me. I love to have fun. I love to do things. I love to be entertained. I love entertaining people. I love going places. And I'm just a hyper person. But I felt when I got into this relationship with Chef that, you know, sometimes when you're in a relationship, you have to sacrifice some things. And I felt like I was going to have to sacrifice certain things because he's handicapped and there's certain things that he can't do. And I was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt and say, well, maybe I just need to grow up and just maybe it's time for me to slow down in my own life and quit being so hyper and everything else. And I'm trying to justify all of this, but I never could be satisfied with that, but I was willing to give it a try. Now, as far as the car is concerned, when Chef and when I finally decided that I was done with Chef, which was May, and I just broke it off, like, I'm done. It just wasn't clicking in his head that the relationship was over. He wasn't getting that. And I'm like, how else can I say this to you? Like, I don't want to be with you no more. This isn't working for me. I got to look at this in a long-term standpoint. Like, you are not somebody that I can go to distance with. You are not someone that I can marry and I would be happy with being with. I just couldn't. I'm like, I'm tired of listening to stories. I'm tired of feeling like I'm in a rocking chair relationship and we're not going anywhere. I mean, and I was tired of feeling like I was last. Like, he would try to help everybody else, but he wasn't trying to help his relationship. He wasn't trying to be the best boyfriend that he could be due to circumstances. I mean, he wasn't even trying. I've seen people try harder than him and in worse shape than him. And I just felt like he wasn't giving me the little bit of affection or attention that I was looking for. And I wasn't asking for much, and I never asked for much from anybody, but I felt like he wasn't giving me enough to keep me interested in him. And so I basically broke it off. I stopped calling him, but yet and still there's this Cadillac involved. This Cadillac that has my name on it. This Cadillac that is insured under my name. This Cadillac that I'm paying for. And it's not sitting well with me that him and his so-called niece is driving that car. And I'm the one paying for it. And ain't nobody else trying to pay for it but me. So I told him, I said, I'm not paying for this car no more. Because he didn't want to give it up. He didn't want to give it up to me. He said it was his car. Oh, he was going to fight me tooth and nail about this. He said it was his car and he wasn't trying to give it up. And I said, well, you know what? I said, I won't be paying for that car anymore. And then she sent me a text message and I'm going to put that text message up. About dinging my credit and why would you want to ding your own credit and this, that, and the third, and why don't you give him an opportunity to get someone else to put the car in their name. I'm thinking like, you guys, we've been talking about this for I don't know how long, about you getting this car out of my name, and y'all have not done it yet. And I'm so tired of you procrastinating this situation, and I'm over it. I could care less about my credit. I'm like, when I was married and got a divorce, I didn't care about my credit then, because I knew whatever happened in that relationship, I was going to take care of it. And I felt the same way with the car. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about my credit. This don't have nothing to do with you no more. So with that being said, I'm still not talking to Chef, like not talking to him at all. But every once in a blue moon, like maybe a month or two will go by, he'll send me a text message like, I don't know why you don't want to talk to me or whatever. And I'm thinking like, dude, you and I, we're done. I've moved on, and me and you, we are no more. I just got to figure out what my next step is with this car. And because I was working so much, I really could not even deal with that car. The only thing I could do was keep paying for it, because I just could not deal with it at the time like I could deal with it now. So it's going on this week. It'll be 2 weeks that I have retrieved the car back from him. And what ended up happening was, I told him, I sent him a text message and I told him that I was going to pick the car up at the end of March. And he got upset, and because what I said was, I'm gonna pick the car up at the end of March, and I'm sending it back to the dealership. And he told me that I wasn't coming to get his car, and that he had just put $16,000 in it to make it handicap accessible. And I'll put that text message up there as well. And that Diana helped him, and Miss Victoria and Gail helped him to make this car handicapped accessible. And I'm like, really, Chef? So I'm thinking, Chef, now you know this whole time I've been telling you to get this car out of my name, and I didn't want it in my name. This car isn't paid for, so why would you invest $16,000 in making it handicap accessible instead of putting $16,000 toward the principal and getting the thing paid off so you can get it out of my name? But since y'all balling like that and y'all got $16,000 to throw around to make this car handicap accessible, then one of y'all need to take care of this bill and get this car paid for so we can be done with this and you can be gone. So Chef and I went back and forth with texting each other, and the text messages started to get a little bit out the pocket and a little bit disrespectful. And my whole thing is, you never bite the hand that feeds you. So now I'm going to need to show you better than I could tell you, player. So I brought myself up to Youngstown that Thursday, and there was a police officer that was going to help me. But he ended up getting into a car crash, and I ended up having to go home. And then I went back up there Saturday, and Saturday was the day that it was the big dispute about the car and everything else. And what ended up happening was they had to release the car back to me. But while they were getting their stuff out of the car, I guess they were talking to their attorneys on the phone. But then when we got there, the police made us wait because I guess they were going back and forth with their attorneys or whatnot. So my best friend was in the Cadillac and I was in my car just to keep the dispute down, because I would have had to cross in front of them to get to the Cadillac. So I just drove my car and she drove the Cadillac. And as my best friend was sitting there, she was listening. Diana had said to the police officer, well, my attorney wants to know that if it's her car, then why doesn't she have a set of keys? So now I'm going to answer that question. Neither you nor Chef had a set of keys. I put the keys in both of you guys' hand. When the sale was complete, the salesman put the keys in my hand. I put a key in Chef's hand and then I put a key in her hand. And the reason why I put a key in her hand is because I live in Akron. Chef wasn't always at the house with her. He would go to the apartment and sometimes she would drop him off. And sometimes she would take him to his doctor's appointments. So I figured she needed a key to the car because she was supposed to be the caregiver of Chef. So that was the reason why you had a key to the car. Heifer, don't try to play me. So anyways, that was how I ended up getting the car back from Chef. And I haven't heard from them since, because I actually put a block on my phone from them being able to contact me anyways. But I'm for sure that their attorney probably told them not to contact me anyway, since they were going to be taking me to civil court. But I have all my documentation. I have everything that I need. So when they do take me to court, I'm ready to go to court with them. Now, with Diana, I told you guys that I really just didn't trust her, and I really just didn't think that, you know, she was his niece from the very beginning. And I still feel like that right now, because Chef has a total of like 3 phones. And I remember one time, one of his phones had went off. Why was she the screensaver on one of them phones? Why? I ain't putting my grown nephews as a screensaver on my phone. I'm sorry. The only person who gonna be on the screensaver of my phone is me. That's it. So that was a little fishy too. So we had to do a little check on Miss Diana Crane. And here come find out she has a brother. She has a brother and then her parents. Now, her mom and her dad. Her daddy is not the same daddy that Chef claimed is her father. And it didn't make sense to me anyways, because I'm thinking she's too old to be your niece. And I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together. Not that people don't have kids like way early, but it just wasn't making any sense. Like, how can she be your niece? I'm not grasping this at all. And then I think I did mention to you guys about she was supposed to have gotten married in December. That never happened, to some doctor. His name is Winston. I had my best friend, or not my best friend, but I had my one friend that I'm gonna call Inspector Gadget. I had her do a check on him because she's a doctor and she works in Cleveland. And he's supposed to be a pediatrician that works in Cleveland. And I gave her his name, and she said that there are no doctors by that name that are licensed. She said there was 2, but one of them's license expired in like 69 or 79, she said, and then the other one in 90. And I'm like, no, well, that couldn't have been him. Anyways, so it just seemed kind of fishy that all this stuff is going on in their lives, but you don't see no end results, and you just don't see anything. And I never seen, being a bride, you would think there would be stuff like laying all around the house, whether it's bridal magazines, tulle, flower petals, dresses, anything, invitations. You would think you would see something laying around the house getting her ready for this day. And I never seen anything. I never seen not one invitation, not one anything laying around the house that showed that she was getting ready to get married. December passed, and we go to Chef's house, what is this, March? And she's still living with him. I've never seen her wear an engagement ring, and I understand that she's a fitness trainer or whatnot, but if somebody had proposed to me and I was engaged to be married, I'm sorry, but I will be rocking that ring. I don't care. I will be rocking that ring. I have never seen her with a ring on. Never. And like I said, I don't believe that she is related to him in any type of way. I think she's one of his females from maybe the past or something like that. But I honestly do not think that she is related to him in any way. This video here, you guys, I've never been one that wanted to, or one that cared about viewerships with my videos because they're mine. But this is one video that if you guys see this video, I ask that you share it, because I want this video to get out, because I need people to know that these two, they work together. And I feel like she is his mouthpiece and he's the hustler. And I feel like that is exactly what happened to me. I don't feel bad that I've lost any money, because I always help the needy. I don't have a problem with that, but it was just about how this needy heifer and this needy Negro did it. I don't want to see anybody else go through this or to be hustled by them, because I feel like this is some type of hustle. It has to be, because for you to have all these elaborate stories and ain't nothing adding up, and then how, you know, you got this car and now you can't pay for it. I need people to know that you're a hustler. You don't know how to court a woman. You don't know how to be with a woman. You don't know how to treat a woman. I think it's all about you. And I don't care what you feel about me. You can say whatever you want to say about me, because I have people that will back me genuinely 100%, tell you how great of a person I really am. And that is the truth. And obviously you know it too, because what I did for you, even after the fact, we weren't even dating, and I'm still paying for this car, and we're not even dating, and you rolling around and she rolling around like everything's gravy. So I do want people to know that these two are hustlers. I'm gonna put their pictures up there. Like I said, I could care less what they think about me or how they feel about me, but I needed to come and tell my story, because I feel like now that the hustle is up with me, who you gonna hustle next? So I'll see you guys on another video real soon. This video has been long enough, and I'm done.